This video reviews the basic aspects of hypothesis testing that were covered in Module 1. It is in Module 2, Comparing Outcomes. Remember that we do a hypothesis test to make inference about the population. We want to use our data to assess a claim made about the population parameter. We call a claim made about the parameter a hypothesis, and we always have two hypotheses, the null hypothesis and the research hypothesis. The null hypothesis assumes that the null parameter, our initial guess of the population parameter, is the true parameter. We use the data from our sample to assess the strength of the evidence against the null hypothesis. The research hypothesis, sometimes called the alternative hypothesis, is the claim made against the null parameter. The null hypothesis always has the true parameter equal to the null parameter, so the research hypothesis will always claim that the true parameter is greater than, less than, or not equal to the null parameter. We use the term research hypothesis in this course instead of the term alternative hypothesis because our research hypothesis is closely related to our research question. Remember from the variability lecture in Module 1 that the sampling distribution is centered at the true population parameter. Since we assume that the null parameter is the true parameter, the sampling distribution is centered there. The x-axis of the distribution consists of all possible statistics. If the statistic we observe from our sample is far away from the center of the distribution, the null parameter, then it is unlikely that the null parameter is the true parameter because most of the statistics will be close to the middle of the distribution, not out in one of the tails. Based on this statistic, we calculate a p-value, which is the proportion or percent of statistics that are even farther from the null parameter than the observed statistic. The farther away the statistic is from the null parameter, the smaller the p-value is. If the p-value is small, typically less than 0.05, then there's evidence that the null hypothesis may not be true. One-sample studies may take one of two forms, historical controls and paired differences. Remember that a historical control compares the data in our sample to something that has been previously published or reported. Study example 1 is an example of a historical control. In a paired difference study, subjects in the sample serve as their own control, or a group of subjects who are closely matched serve as controls. Either way, the groups are not independent. Study example 2 is an example of a paired difference study.